Success is not to be pursued. It is to be attracted by the person you become. That one idea changed everything for me. You see, most people go through life trying to impress others. Bosses, friends, family, even strangers. They chase titles, approval, applause. But here's the truth. No one talks about the real game begins when you stop trying to prove yourself to the world and start working to prove yourself to yourself. That's where the power is. Because when you start showing up for yourself, when you keep the promises you make in silence, when you do the hard things without recognition, that's when you build a kind of self-respect that can't be shaken. That's when confidence becomes internal, not something borrowed from someone's opinion. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get it all right. You just have to start, prove to yourself that you're willing to grow, to change, to push, day by day, choice by choice. This isn't about ego, it's about identity. It's about becoming the kind of person who looks in the mirror and says, I trust you. And that trust, it's what unlocks your next level. So if you've ever doubted your worth or waited for someone else to validate your dreams, this message is for you. Today I'm going to show you how to prove yourself to yourself, step by step, principle by principle. Stay with me for the next few minutes as I walk you through the daily disciplines that build unshakable confidence and personal freedom. Let's dive in. Number 1, the first win is showing up. Before you build anything great in life, whether it's a career, a strong body, a new skill, or a better mindset, you have to win the very first battle, the battle to show up. It sounds simple, but don't underestimate it. Showing up is the quiet foundation of every success story you've ever heard. It's easy to get inspired by big achievements, but what you don't see is the countless days that led to those results. The days when nothing exciting happened. The days when motivation was missing. The days when progress was invisible. And yet the successful ones still showed up. Not perfectly, not always enthusiastically, but they showed up anyway. Take the story of Alex, a young man who wanted to change his life. He was tired of feeling stuck, physically, mentally, emotionally. So he made a simple decision to show up at the gym every day for 30 days, no matter what. Not to run a marathon, not to lift the heaviest weight, just to be there, just to prove to himself that he could show up. At first, it felt pointless. He barely worked out. Some days he sat in the locker room longer than he was on the floor. But something incredible was happening. His identity shifted. He stopped seeing himself as someone who quits. He started seeing himself as someone who follows through. And that one shift became the spark that ignited lasting transformation. You see, showing up is more than physical presence. It's an act of self-respect. It's saying to yourself, I'm worth the effort. It builds momentum. It creates consistency. And over time, consistency compounds into results that others call overnight success. When you win the battle to show up, whether it's at your desk, your journal, your workout, or your goals, you start building a track record with yourself. You stop living by emotion and start living by decision. That's how character is built. That's how trust is earned. Not from others, but from yourself. So if you're waiting for the perfect time, stop. If you're waiting to feel ready, stop. Just show up. Even if it's messy, even if it's small, even if it's uncomfortable. Because the first win in life isn't being the best. The first win is simply being there. And once you've mastered that, you're already ahead of most. Number 2, discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. There's a powerful truth that has echoed through the lives of every successful person I've studied. Discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. The small, consistent actions that feel hard in the moment are light compared to the heavy burden of looking back and wishing you had done more, tried harder, or stayed the course. Discipline is rarely glamorous. It's waking up early when the bed is warm. It's saying no to distractions when they scream for your attention. It's doing what needs to be done, not because it's fun, but because it's right. And yet those little decisions, those ounces of discipline, accumulate. They build strength, confidence, and momentum. Let's take the example of Benjamin Franklin. He wasn't just a founding father, He was a master of personal growth from a young age. He realized that success wouldn't come from talent alone. So he created a list of 13 virtues he wanted to develop, from temperance to humility. Every day he tracked his behavior, focusing on just one virtue each week. He called it his path to moral perfection. Not because he ever expected to be perfect, but because he knew that intentional discipline would shape his character, and it did. That daily practice, that structure, made him not only successful but deeply respected. Franklin understood that lasting change doesn't happen in bursts of inspiration. It happens through small, deliberate steps, ounces of effort, drops in the bucket that eventually overflow. Now here's the thing, most people run from discipline because it feels uncomfortable. They think it limits freedom. But the opposite is true. Discipline creates freedom. The freedom to choose your future, to live with integrity, to look in the mirror and feel proud of who you're becoming. Without discipline, life chooses for you, and it rarely chooses well. Regret, on the other hand, sneaks in silently. It builds slowly. One skipped workout, one missed opportunity, one broken promise at a time. Then one day you wake up carrying the tonnage of what could have been, and that's a burden no one wants. But you can avoid it. Not by being perfect, not by being harsh with yourself, but by choosing discipline when it matters most. When no one is watching, when your emotions pull you elsewhere. When the easier path calls your name, discipline isn't punishment. It's a declaration that your future matters more than your comfort, that your goals are worth more than your excuses, that you're willing to pay a small price now to avoid a much higher cost later. So carry the ounces. Wake up, finish what you start. Keep the commitment. The weight of discipline is light, but the freedom it brings is priceless. Number 3. Keep the promises you make to yourself. There's a certain kind of confidence that no compliment can give you, and no criticism can take away. It's the confidence that comes from keeping your word to yourself. Not to your boss, not to your friends, not even to your family, but to you. And that's where real self-respect is born. Most people are careful to keep promises to others. If they say they'll meet a friend at 8, they show up. If they commit to a deadline at work, they make it happen. But when it comes to personal commitments, like waking up early, reading daily, starting that project, eating healthy, they often break those promises. Why? Because no one's watching. But you are watching. And every time you break a promise to yourself, you chip away at your own trust. Let me tell you about David, a struggling salesman I once knew. He wasn't the most talented, and he didn't have the best network. But one day he made a decision. Every day, no matter what, he would make 5 sales calls before noon. Rain or shine, good mood or bad. Whether he felt like it or not, he wrote it on his mirror. He set an alarm. He told no one. This was a promise between him and himself. The first few days were easy. The second week got harder. But by the third week, something changed. He started to believe in himself. Why? Because he finally had evidence. He was no longer hoping to become disciplined. He was proving it. One call at a time. That's the power of keeping promises to yourself. It's not just about the task. It's about who you become in the process. You start seeing yourself as someone who follows through, someone who finishes, someone who can be trusted, not just by others, but by yourself. It's a strange thing, isn't it? We often look outside for validation. We want others to believe in us. But how can we expect anyone else to believe in us if we don't believe in ourselves? And belief starts with trust. And trust starts with one small promise kept. So here's the challenge. Make one promise to yourself today. Just one. Maybe it's to walk for 15 minutes. Maybe it's to drink water instead of soda. Maybe it's to read a few pages of a book. Whatever it is, make it doable. Then keep it. Not for applause, not for praise, just to prove that your word means something, even in private. Because the day you start treating your own promises like they matter is the day you start building a foundation of unshakable self-respect. And from that foundation, you can build anything. Number 4, speak like a champion. How you speak to yourself matters more than anything else. Not just when life is going well, but especially when you stumble, struggle, or fail. Your internal voice, what you say to yourself when no one's around, can either build you up or tear you down. And if you want to prove yourself to yourself, it starts with speaking to yourself like someone worth believing in. Most people don't even realize how destructive their inner voice has become. After a mistake, they say things like, "I'm so stupid," or "I always mess this up." They replay their failures, magnify their flaws, and minimize their strengths. And then they wonder why they lack confidence. It's not because they're not capable, it's because they've been tearing themselves down from the inside out. On the other hand, successful people speak to themselves differently. Take Michael Jordan, for example. He was known not just for his physical talent, but for his mental game. Behind every jump shot, every missed free throw, and every last-minute decision was a mind to focus, believe, and encourage itself under pressure. Jordan once said he had missed over 9,000 shots, lost nearly 300 games, and failed 26 times to hit the game-winning shot. But he didn't define himself by those misses. He used them. He didn't say, "I'm a failure." He said, "I'll get it next time." That's the difference. He spoke to himself in a way that lifted him up, not with arrogance, but with resilience. That's what champions do. And you can do it too. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," try saying, "This is hard, but I'm learning." Instead of "I always fail," say, "This time I'll approach it differently." Instead of "I'm not good enough," say, "I'm not there yet, but I'm improving." It might feel awkward at first. It might even feel dishonest. But over time, your words shape your beliefs, and your beliefs shape your identity. Just like water shapes rock, consistent positive self-talk carves out a stronger, more confident version of you. This doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means being honest about your challenges while staying hopeful about your potential. Speak to yourself like someone you care about, someone worth fighting for, someone who deserves a second chance, even after falling down. Because when you change how you talk to yourself, you change how you feel. And when you change how you feel, you change how you act. And those actions, they become the proof, the evidence that you're not who you used to be. You're becoming someone stronger. So the next time your inner critic shows up, interrupt it, replace it, talk to yourself the way a champion would. Because champions aren't born, they're built. And that building starts with your words. Number 5. Commitment beats convenience. If you only take action when it's easy, you'll never build anything meaningful. Convenience feels good in the moment, but it's commitment that creates real transformation. When you choose your future over your feelings, your values over your comfort, that's when everything begins to change. And if you want to prove yourself to yourself, you must learn to honor your commitments, especially when no one's watching. Let me share the story of Carla, a woman from Dayton, Ohio, who had struggled with her weight and health for most of her adult life. For years, she tried different diets and routines, each one ending the same way, quitting as soon as it became inconvenient. Then one day something shifted. She looked in the mirror and realized the person she had become no longer matched the person she wanted to be. That moment sparked a decision. Not a goal to lose weight, but a deeper commitment to become someone who followed through. Carla didn't start with some dramatic overhaul. She began with a simple daily walk around her neighborhood. Rain or shine, she showed up. No excuses, no skipping. Then she swapped soda for water. Slowly, she began cooking meals instead of grabbing takeout. And with each small act, she started rebuilding the most important thing she had lost: trust in herself. Of course, there were hard days. Days when progress felt slow, when cravings were strong, and motivation was nowhere to be found. But Carla had made a decision, not a wish. She had promised herself that her future mattered more than her mood. And over the months, she dropped over 80 pounds. But more than that, she gained confidence, discipline, and self-respect, because she had kept her word to herself. That's what commitment does. It reshapes who you are, one choice at a time. Too many people confuse interest with commitment. They say, "I want to get in shape," or "I want to start a business," but only if it's convenient. The moment resistance shows up, they stop. Those who are truly committed, they act whether they feel like it or not. They don't need perfect conditions. They just need a reason and a decision. Convenience will always offer an easier way out, but convenience never builds legacy. It never builds character. Commitment is what sharpens your identity. It says, "I'll keep going, even when no one's clapping, even when no one's watching. So here's the challenge. Don't chase a feeling. Build a system. Commit to showing up every day. Not for perfection, but for consistency. Because every time you follow through, you send a signal to yourself. I can trust me, and trust, that's the real prize. That's the invisible reward that fuels momentum. When you're committed, you don't just prove your effort, you prove your integrity. You prove you're the kind of person who stays the course. And that kind of self-respect, it changes everything. Number 6, progress over perfection. One of the biggest traps in personal growth is the idea that you have to get everything right, that you have to be flawless from day one. But here's the truth. Perfection is a myth. It's not the goal, and it's certainly not the requirement for success. What really matters is progress. Steady, intentional, consistent progress. Far too many people delay action because they're afraid of making mistakes. They wait until the timing is perfect, the plan is perfect, or they feel completely ready. But life doesn't reward perfection. It rewards movement. The person who improves slowly and steadily will always outperform the one who waits endlessly for the right moment. Let's take a lesson from Leonardo da Vinci. The Mona Lisa, arguably the most famous painting in the world, wasn't a quick masterpiece. Da Vinci worked on it for years, constantly refining, adjusting, stepping back, and changing details. It wasn't about painting something perfect in one try. It was about evolving it, inch by inch, brushstroke by brushstroke. That's what made it great. And the same applies to your life. You don't need a flawless plan. You don't need to execute everything perfectly. You just need to keep moving forward. You'll stumble. You'll make mistakes. But every mistake teaches. Every setback builds strength. And every step, no matter how small, moves you closer to the person you want to become. Progress builds confidence. Think about it. When you look back and see how far you've come, even if it's just a little, it gives you momentum. It proves to your mind that you're not stuck, that you're capable, that change is real, and that feeling, it fuels everything else. Perfection, on the other hand, leads to paralysis. It keeps you stuck in your head, overthinking, doubting, second-guessing. It makes you afraid to start. And if you never start, you never grow. That's why it's not just okay to be imperfect. It's necessary. So here's the challenge. Focus on daily wins, not massive leaps, just daily progress. Did you make a better decision today than you did yesterday? Did you learn something new? Did you act when you could have avoided? That's progress. Celebrate it. Honor it. Because it's those small steps that compound into big results. Stop waiting to be perfect before you take action. Instead, take action and improve as you go. Keep learning. Keep adjusting. Keep showing up. You're not here to impress anyone with a flawless image. You're here to become someone you respect. And that only happens through progress. So drop the pressure to be perfect. Embrace the process. And remember, success is not about never falling. It's about rising one more time than you fall. What progress looks like. And that's how you prove to yourself that you're becoming someone who doesn't quit. Number 7. Step outside your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is warm, it's familiar, it feels safe, but it's also where dreams go to die. Nothing grows there. No new skills, no breakthroughs, no transformation. If you want to prove yourself to yourself, you have to be willing to feel uncomfortable. You have to be willing to do what's unfamiliar, uncertain, and at times intimidating. Growth demands discomfort. It asks you to stretch beyond what you already know and to confront what you don't. And yes, that can feel scary. But fear isn't always a warning. It's often a signal that you're heading in the right direction. Because anything worth achieving lives just outside the borders of comfort. Let's look at the story of a young woman named Eleanor. From a young age, she feared public speaking. Her voice would shake, her palms would sweat, and she avoided it at all costs. But deep down, she knew she had something to say. One day, she made a choice. Not to suddenly become a speaker overnight, but to take a small step outside her comfort zone. She joined a local speaking club. The first time she spoke, it lasted only 30 seconds. Her voice cracked, but she finished. She showed up again the next week, and the next months passed, and Eleanor was no longer whispering her ideas. She was leading conversations, not because the fear disappeared, but because she learned how to walk with it. Every time she stood up, she stretched her identity. She started to see herself as someone who could speak with strength, and eventually she became a respected trainer, empowering others to find their voice too. That's the magic of stepping outside your comfort zone. You don't have to leap, you just have to lean. Do something new. Ask the hard question. Take the small risk. Apply for that role. Share your idea. Reach out to that mentor. Every time you do, you collect evidence that you're capable of more than you thought. Comfort feels good now, but it steals your potential. Discomfort feels risky now, but it's where all your growth lives. You're never going to feel fully ready. That's not a sign to wait. That's a sign to begin. So here's the shift. Instead of running from discomfort, start seeking it out, not recklessly, but intentionally. Look for areas where you're playing small, then challenge yourself to take one bold step. Because the truth is, confidence doesn't come first. Action comes first, confidence follows. And every time you act in the face of fear, you build something powerful. You build courage, you build self-trust, and you prove to yourself that you're not limited by where you started. Your comfort zone may be safe, but your future is beyond it. Step out, grow, stretch. You'll be amazed by who you become. Number 8, quantity leads to quality. One of the biggest myths in personal growth is the belief that everything has to be perfect from the start. That your first idea, your first draft, your first attempt should be flawless. But that's not how excellence is built. The truth is, quality comes from quantity by doing the work over and over again, refining, adjusting, and learning each time you try. There's a story about a pottery teacher who split his class into 2 groups. One group was told they would be graded solely on the quantity of pots they made. The more pots, the higher the grade. The second group would be graded on quality. They only had to make 1 pot, but it had to be perfect. At the end of the term, a surprising result emerged. The group that focused on quantity also produced the best quality pots. Why? Because they practiced more. They experimented more. They learned from each mistake and improved with every attempt. The other group spent so much time planning and worrying about perfection that they barely produced anything. This lesson applies to anything in life: business, writing, fitness, communication, even character. The more you do something, the better you get. It's not magic, it's repetition. It's momentum. It's showing up again and again without waiting for perfection to strike. Too many people stall their progress by trying to make their first attempt a masterpiece. But you can't edit a blank page. You can't grow from what you never start. The key is to get in motion. Start messy. Make mistakes. Make a lot of them. Because every time you try, you gather experience. And experience is the soil where mastery grows. Let's say you want to become a better speaker, writer, or leader. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity. Start with what you have. Speak to a small group. Write a short article. Lead a small project. Then do it again and again. Each repetition sharpens your skill, deepens your understanding, and strengthens your confidence. What stops most people isn't a lack of ability. It's a fear of starting. A fear that what they create won't be good enough. But here's the shift. Your early efforts aren't supposed to be brilliant. They're supposed to teach you. And the more attempts you make, the faster you learn. So focus on action, not perfection. Create more. Try more. Fail more. Learn more. Trust that your best work will emerge through the process, not before it. Because when you commit to quantity, when you keep showing up, you stop chasing perfection and start building mastery. And that's how you prove to yourself that you're not just dreaming about change. You're doing the work to earn it. One try at a time, one lesson at a time, until excellence becomes your new normal. Number 9, celebrate the small wins. Success doesn't just come from massive leaps forward. It comes from small steps, taken consistently. And those steps, while often overlooked, deserve to be celebrated. Because when you recognize your progress, No matter how small, you reinforce the belief that change is happening. And that belief becomes fuel to keep going. Most people don't give themselves credit unless they've reached the big goal. They wait until the scale drops by 20 pounds, until the promotion lands, until the business finally takes off. But the truth is, waiting for huge milestones to validate your efforts can leave you discouraged and disconnected. That's why you must learn to appreciate the small wins along the way. They are the bricks that build the foundation of long-term success. Take the story of Mr. Howard, a high school teacher who felt stuck and uninspired in his job. He knew he needed a mindset shift, so he started a simple habit. At the end of every day, he wrote down 3 small wins. Not big ones, just little moments. A student who finally understood a lesson. A conversation that went better than expected. Even something as simple as showing up on time with energy. Day by day, he noticed something powerful. He was no longer focused on what was going wrong. He was focused on what was going right. And that changed everything. By celebrating his progress, however small, he reignited his motivation. He didn't need the school board to recognize him. He had already started recognizing himself. That's the power of small wins. They shift your attention from lack to progress, from doubt to belief, from frustration to momentum. When you prove yourself to yourself, you don't need a standing ovation. You just need to keep score of your growth. Did you say no to something that wasn't good for you today? That's a win. Did you show up to your workout, even though you were tired? That's a win. Did you take 5 minutes to read a book instead of scrolling on your phone? Another win. These moments may not seem significant on their own, but together they compound. They form a story you begin telling yourself. I'm someone who follows through. I'm someone who improves. I'm moving forward. That story is what shapes your identity, and your identity is what shapes your actions. So make it a daily ritual. At the end of each day, reflect and write down what you did well. Don't wait for applause. Create your own, because when you acknowledge your progress, you give yourself permission to grow. Small wins create big change. They remind you that you're on the path. They keep your fire burning. And they prove day by day that you are becoming someone worth trusting. Someone who shows up, stays consistent, and keeps moving forward, no matter how quiet the progress may seem. Number 10. Goals are a tool for transformation. Most people set goals to get something. A new job, a better body, more money. But the real value of a goal isn't in what you get. It's in who you become while pursuing it. A worthy goal stretches you, challenges you, and forces you to grow. And if you're serious about proving yourself to yourself, you need to stop thinking of goals as finish lines and start seeing them as training grounds for personal transformation. Let me introduce you to Jonah, a quiet young man from Charleston, South Carolina. Jonah always dreamed of becoming a professional pianist, but he didn't come from a musical family. He didn't even start playing until he was 17. An age many said was too late to begin seriously. But Jonah set a clear goal to audition for a prestigious music program within 3 years. Not just to play, but to earn his place among the best. The odds were against him. His early practice sessions were frustrating. His fingers were slow. His timing was off. But the goal kept pulling him forward. It gave his days structure. It gave his struggles purpose. He studied relentlessly, practiced through holidays, and even worked part-time jobs to pay for lessons. The piano became more than an instrument. It became his proving ground. 3 years later, Jonah walked into that audition room with nerves. Yes, but also with confidence. He didn't just play music that day. He played a version of himself that didn't exist when he started. Whether he was accepted or not became secondary, because the transformation had already happened. That's what goals do when they're approached the right way. They change you. They expose your weaknesses, sharpen your strengths, and teach you discipline. They show you who you are when things get hard, and who you can become when you keep going anyway. But here's the mistake many people make. They chase goals only for the result. And when results come slowly or when setbacks hit, they quit. Why? because their identity was tied to the outcome, not the process. But if you focus on becoming rather than just achieving, you win either way. Whether or not you hit the exact number, title, or date, you've still grown into a better version of yourself. And that growth lasts far beyond the goal. So when you choose your next goal, ask yourself, who will I have to become to achieve this? Because that's the real prize. It's not about crossing a line, it's about building character, focus, and resilience along the way. Every day you work toward a meaningful goal, you're writing a new chapter in your own development. You're proving to yourself that you're not just hoping, you're building, not just dreaming, you're doing. And each step forward, each challenge faced, each ounce of effort given shapes you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable than you were yesterday. That's how you use goals, not just to get something, but to grow into someone. Number 11, curate your environment. You can have the right mindset, the right intentions, even the right goals, but if your environment is working against you, progress becomes an uphill battle. What's around you matters. It shapes your habits, influences your thoughts, and affects your decisions, often without you even realizing it. That's why, if you truly want to prove yourself to yourself, you need to curate an environment that supports your growth instead of sabotaging it. Your environment is more than just your physical space. It includes the people you spend time with, the conversations you engage in, the content you consume, and the atmosphere you create. These elements are either lifting you up or pulling you down. There's rarely a neutral zone, and the sooner you take control of them, the faster you begin to grow. Let's look at the life of Charles Darwin. He's best known for his theory of evolution, but what many people overlook is the environment he created to develop his ideas. Darwin wasn't always the most outspoken or naturally confident thinker. He built his mental strength and creative insight at his home, Down House. There he structured his days around long walks, focused study, and quiet reflection. He designed his environment to encourage deep thinking and eliminate distraction. That setting, carefully chosen and shaped, allowed his ideas to flourish and his confidence to grow. You can do the same. You don't need a mansion or perfect conditions. You just need to be intentional. Ask yourself, does my environment encourage the habits I want to build, or does it tempt me to stay stuck? If you're trying to eat healthy, what's in your kitchen? If you're trying to grow mentally, what's on your screen or bookshelf? If you want to become more confident, who are you spending your time with? People who challenge you to grow, or people who keep you small? Even small changes can make a big impact. Rearranging your space, replacing distractions with tools that support your goals, surrounding yourself with people who inspire you instead of those who drain you. Curating your environment isn't about control, it's about alignment. Aligning your surroundings with the life you say you want to build. And here's the deeper truth. When you design your environment for growth, you send a powerful message to yourself. You say, I'm serious about this. I'm investing in my future. That quiet message becomes another brick in your foundation of self-respect. Another step toward proving that you're not just hoping to change, you're preparing to change. So take a look around. What needs to go? What needs to be added? Who needs more time in your life? And who needs less? Because when your environment supports your evolution, you move forward faster, with less resistance. And every small change you make becomes another way you prove to yourself that you're committed, for real this time. Number 12. Break the mental barriers. Most of the limits we face aren't physical. They're mental. They live in the stories we tell ourselves about what we can and can't do. I'm not smart enough. I'm too old. That's just not who I am. These aren't, they're beliefs. And beliefs can be changed. If you want to prove yourself to yourself, you must first challenge the thoughts that have been quietly holding you back. Sometimes the biggest breakthrough isn't a new opportunity. It's a new perspective. One of the most powerful examples of this comes from the story of Roger Bannister. For years, it was believed that running a mile in under 4 minutes was physically impossible. Experts claimed the human heart couldn't endure the strain. Athletes came close, but no one broke the barrier because everyone believed it couldn't be done. Then in 1954, Bannister shattered that belief. He ran the mile in 3 minutes and 59.4 seconds. But the most astonishing part wasn't just his record, It was what happened next. Within a year, multiple runners also broke the 4-minute mile. The barrier had never been physical. It was mental. What changed? The belief. And once belief changed, performance followed. You may not be running races, but you have your own 4-minute mile. Maybe it's a career you think is out of reach, a habit you believe you can't break, a dream you quietly buried because someone told you it was too big. But ask yourself this: is it truly impossible, or have you just never questioned the story? Start identifying the mental barriers in your life. Where have you accepted limitations without challenge? Where have you told yourself, this is just the way I am? Those phrases are red flags. They signal a belief that needs to be examined. Because once you change your inner narrative, your actions begin to change too. Here's a practical approach. When you hear that limiting voice in your head, pause and reframe it. Instead of saying, "I've never done this before," say, "This is a chance to grow." Instead of "I'm not good at this," say, "I'm learning to get better." This shift may seem small, but it changes your relationship with challenges. It opens the door to new behavior. You don't need to be fearless to make a change. You just need to stop agreeing with the lies that fear tells you. You need to stop giving power to the beliefs that shrink your potential. The real transformation begins when you stop asking, "Can I?" and start saying, "How can I?" Because the truth is, you're far more capable than you think. The real barrier is rarely your ability. It's your belief. And when you start to break those mental barriers, you don't just open the door to new results. You prove to yourself that you're not limited by your past or your doubts. You're limited only by what you're willing to believe is possible. Number 13. Trust the process, not just the outcome. We live in a world obsessed with results. Everyone wants the reward, the fit body, the successful business, the perfect relationship, but few want the slow, uncertain process it takes to get there. But if you want to prove yourself to yourself, you must learn to fall in love with the process, even when the results are still out of sight. Progress doesn't always look exciting. In fact, it often looks boring. Repetition, routine, effort without applause. And yet, it's in those quiet moments, the ones no one sees, that the real work is done. You're not just building results, you're building you. Let me tell you about Samuel, a humble baker from Boise, Idaho. He opened a small bakery on a quiet street with a dream of serving the best bread in town. No marketing team, no investors, just a deep belief in quality and consistency. Every morning before sunrise, Samuel would knead dough by hand, perfect his recipes, and greet each customer with genuine care. For the first year, foot traffic was slow. Friends suggested he switch products, add gimmicks, or give up altogether. But Samuel trusted his process. He refined his craft. He stayed consistent. And one morning, a local food blogger stumbled in, tasted a warm loaf, and wrote a glowing review. Within a week, the shop was full. Within months, it became a local favorite. People called him an overnight success, but Samuel knew better. The success wasn't in the crowd. It was in the years of preparation, the discipline, and the quiet mornings when no one was clapping. His success wasn't luck. It was the compound effect of a process he never gave up on. That's the lesson. The process is where your character is forged. It's where you gain the skills, the patience, and the belief in yourself that outcomes can never give you. Results may come and go, but the person you become through the process, that lasts forever. Still, it's tempting to get discouraged when you don't see immediate change. You might start working out and not see the scale move. You might start writing and get no readers. You might build a business and face silence. But those moments aren't failures. They're foundations. The roots are growing, even if the results haven't bloomed yet. So shift your focus. Track your consistency, not just your results. Celebrate the days you show up, even if progress is slow. Remind yourself that building anything meaningful takes time, and understand that the process is the path. Because when you commit to the process, regardless of outcome, you become someone different, someone stronger, someone more disciplined, someone who doesn't quit just because the finish line isn't visible. And that's how you prove to yourself that you're not just chasing outcomes, you're building a life. One disciplined step at a time. One quiet morning at a time. One act of faith in your future self. Repeated until the results finally catch up. Number 14. Learn from failure, don't fear it. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. Yet most people treat failure like a stop sign. They stumble. And instead of learning, they retreat. They make a mistake. And instead of reflecting, they label themselves as incapable. But if you want to prove yourself to yourself, you have to change your relationship with failure. You must learn to see it not as a sign to quit, but as a sign that you're in the arena doing the real work. Let's be clear. Failure hurts. It's uncomfortable. It exposes your flaws and brings your insecurities to the surface. But it also teaches. It sharpens. It reveals. Failure gives you the kind of wisdom and resilience that no book, mentor, or motivational speech can offer. Consider the story of Henry Ford. Before founding the Ford Motor Company, he experienced two major business failures. His first company, the Detroit Automobile Company, collapsed under poor product quality and high costs. His second venture wasn't much better. People doubted him. Investors walked away. But Ford didn't treat those failures as final. Instead, he studied what went wrong. He simplified his design, streamlined production, and changed the way the world would think about automobiles. His failures didn't disqualify him. They qualified him. That's the shift. When you start seeing failure as feedback, everything changes. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What can I improve?" You stop avoiding risk and start embracing the learning that comes from every bold step forward. The truth is, you will fail. Not once, not twice, but times. The question is, what will you do with those moments? Will you hide from them? Will you let them define you? Or will you use them as stepping stones toward a stronger version of yourself? You see, when you fear failure, you avoid opportunity. You play small. You hesitate to try. And every time you hesitate, you rob yourself of a lesson you could have learned, a strength you could have developed, or a skill you could have mastered. But when you embrace failure as part of the process, you become unstoppable. You're no longer paralyzed by the need to get it perfect the first time. You try, you fail, you adjust, you grow. That's the formula. That's how real confidence is built. Not from success after success, but from falling and rising again, stronger each time. So the next time you fail, pause. Don't run from it. Study it. Write down what went wrong, what you learned, and what you'll do differently next time. Because that habit, not avoiding failure but learning from it, is what separates those who evolve from those who stay stuck. Failure isn't the end. It's a chapter, a necessary one. And when you turn the page, you prove to yourself that your strength isn't in never falling. It's in always rising, with more wisdom, more courage, and more determination than before. Number 15. Choose integrity over approval. One of the most liberating moments in life is when you realize you don't need to impress anyone else to live a meaningful life. Real fulfillment begins the moment you stop living for applause and start living in alignment with your values. If you truly want to prove yourself to yourself, you must learn to choose integrity over approval, especially when the two are not aligned. We live in a world that constantly tries to shape us. Social media, peers, even well-meaning family members can push us to follow paths that look good on the outside, but feel hollow on the inside. And too often people trade their authenticity for acceptance. They say yes when they mean no. They pursue careers they don't love. They stay silent when their heart is screaming for change. All because they're chasing approval from the outside instead of peace from within. But approval is temporary. It shifts with opinions. One day you're praised, the next you're criticized. If you build your identity on what others think, you'll always be insecure. But if you build it on integrity, on doing what you know is right, you'll be grounded even when no one else understands your choices. Let me tell you about Martin, a high-ranking executive at a successful corporation. He had the title, the salary, the recognition, but deep down he felt disconnected. His values didn't align with the work he was doing. After years of conflict, he made a difficult decision. He stepped away from the role, took a pay cut, and began teaching leadership at a local college. His peers thought he was crazy, but for the first time in years, Martin felt at peace. Why? Because he was finally living in alignment with what mattered to him. He wasn't trying to impress the world anymore. He was trying to respect himself. That's the power of integrity. It's doing what's right for you, even when it's unpopular. It's making decisions that match your principles, not someone else's expectations. And every time you choose integrity over approval, you reinforce something sacred, your trust in yourself. This isn't about being rebellious. It's about being responsible for your own life, your own happiness, your own path. You don't have to explain your values to everyone. You just have to live with them. The people who matter will respect you more for it. And even if they don't, you'll respect yourself more. And that's what counts. So ask yourself, are the choices I'm making true to who I am? Or are they designed to impress someone else? What matters most to me? And am I honoring that? Because when your actions reflect your values, you create harmony between your inner world and your outer life. That's where real strength lives. That's where confidence grows. And that's how you prove to yourself, not through applause, but through alignment, that you're becoming the kind of person you can be proud of. Proving yourself to yourself is not a one-time event. It's not something you check off a list or achieve with a single grand success. It's a daily decision, a lifelong journey, a quiet, personal commitment to becoming someone you respect, even when no one else is watching. You've walked through the chapters of that journey, showing up, staying disciplined, keeping promises, stepping outside your comfort zone, trusting the process, and learning from failure. And in every one of those chapters, the core message is the same. You are building something far more important than applause or recognition. You are building yourself. We live in a world that constantly pulls our attention outward. It tells us to seek approval, chase validation, and compare ourselves to others. But the truth is, the most powerful life you can live comes from turning inward, from setting your own standard, from deciding that your word, your growth, your journey is enough. When you start proving yourself to yourself, you stop living at the mercy of opinions. You stop waiting for permission. You stop asking, am I good enough? And start declaring, I'm growing, I'm showing up, and I'm not stopping. You'll still have days of doubt. You'll still face failure, setbacks, and moments where progress feels invisible. But now you know, those moments are not signs of weakness. They are signs of work. They are proof that you're doing the difficult, noble, and transformative work of becoming who you're meant to be. So what now? Now you take the first small promise and keep it. You choose one habit and stick to it. You talk to yourself with belief. You take action, even when you're uncertain. And you do it not for applause, not for validation, but because you've decided to trust yourself again. Because the real reward isn't what you gain, it's who you become. One decision at a time, one disciplined action at a time, one uncomfortable stretch at a time. That's how you build the kind of self-respect that no one can give you and no one can take away. And that, my friend, is how you prove yourself to yourself.